You're welcome back on Joy News today with me, Benis Abubedu. A fire simulation exercise at City House in Accra was taken as a real fire outbreak earlier today. Now, my colleague Beatrice Edu spoke to an eyewitness, Godfred Boppin, when the incident occurred. But shortly after the interview, follow-up by Joy News revealed that it was a simulation exercise. My colleague Jennifer Ekwamwa was there and has gathered some information on what really happened. So, Jennifer, everybody was tricked virtually. The workers, the media.
Staff,
what exactly happened?
So this is what happens at City House. They say it occurs twice a year. We spoke to an official who commented only on condition of anonymity. He didn't want to be identified. And he explained that management and staff of City House every year, twice a year, they have this fire simulation exercise. And what they do is they do not inform the staff because they want to test how their reactions would be during an actual fire. Because they do go through trained procedures that they have to go through when there's a fire outbreak at the building. So today they did their exercise. All the staff ran screaming, terrified onto the streets. They also called the fire service and the police service to determine how quickly they will get to the scene. So what we determined from there and what the official also told us was that, yes, although they do apologize for creating that sense of fear and panic, the exercise was a successful one.
All right, but have any of the workers been speaking about the experience, really?
Well, what we did gather from the workers was that it was a mixture of delight and shock, and there was some laughter as well, embarrassed laughter as well. They understand the importance of the exercise, but I guess the realism of the exercise got them a bit terrified.
Thank you very much, Jennifer Kwama, bringing us some updates on that particular simulation exercise at City House, which was taken for a real fire outbreak. Now let's move to Parliament, where the Speaker, Edward Dojahu, and leadership of the House are worried about the increase in absence of MPs to transact business since the House resumed sitting on Monday. They fear the House will not be able to take decisions on critical matters if the attendance does not improve. Parliamentary correspondent Elton Brobe joins me on the phone for more on this issue. Hello, Elton, and thanks for your time.
Hi, Benny.
Now, before we go into this complaint by the Speaker of Parliament and leadership of the House, is there any issue up for discussion on the floor of Parliament currently?
Yes, there are. As a matter of fact, they are now considering the Ghana Aid Commission Bill 2016. It's actually an amendment to the existing law, and the idea behind this is to make it more responsive to current demands as far as the treatment and the care for persons living with HIV is concerned.
Elton, so you are in Parliament now. Can you give us a picture of the number of MPs present?
Well, on the floor right now, I cannot be so categorical on the number of
just
MPs
a picture
on the hindsight, but I can tell for a fact that they are not up to the 1/3 required to transact business on the floor. But because nobody has raised an issue of quorum, the House will continue to deal with matters before it. Because if you look at the provisions in the standing order, especially Standing Order 48(1), it talks about the fact that the presence of at least 1/3 of all members of Parliament, besides the presiding officer as the Speaker, shall be necessary to constitute a quorum of the House. And 1/3 is about 94 of all members of Parliament. Now, as we speak, the number of members on the floor is not up to 50. But because nobody has raised an issue of quorum, the Speaker is still presiding, and that's been the concern for the Speaker and the leadership of the House.
So what do they hope to do to address this situation, really? So it's not work in futility?
They will have to, the appeal is to members to avail themselves to the business of the House. The Speaker in this instance cannot do much because he is not a member of Parliament. He's only a presiding officer. It is the duty of the leadership to ensure that their members are present on the floor to do the business of the House. The danger here is that if anybody should raise an issue of quorum right now, and because they are not up to the 1/3 required for the transaction of business on the floor, the Speaker will be left with no option than to adjourn the House. But if nobody is able to raise a quorum, the other danger, which they cannot avoid, is the 2/3 of all members of Parliament required to pass a resolution on any bill or instrument before. So they can do all the consideration, but they cannot pass anything into law unless they have the required number. If they should sidestep the provisional provision and then go ahead and pass a law, somebody can take them on, and what that exercise will be declared null and void. That is what the Speaker of Parliament is taken to avoid. We're looking at a tall list of bills, instruments, about 100 referrals before Parliament, before they go on recess on the 29th of this month. The Speaker, for example, today came to his lobby at 9:30, but as at 10, there was nobody on the floor, so he was unable to come to the floor to start business. He had to wait till 15 minutes after 11 before some members came in, but expressed concern about the increasing number of absentees on the floor and the fact that it will hamper their work if this continues.
Right, thank you very much. That was my colleague Elton John Broby bringing us some updates from the floor of Parliament. Let's do some other stories now. She walks into the walls of Wesley College of Education with the support of a guide. Her long-anticipated journey to realizing her dream of becoming a teacher begins after she survived an alleged murder plot by her own mother. That's the chilling story of 24-year-old visually impaired Theresa Kwatema, who came to public attention through Inshira FM's Obra program. Subsequently, the station and its listeners have teamed up to give her a lifeline. On the occasion of World Sight Day, we throw the spotlight on the life of Theresa Kwatema. Joy News' Kwesi Deborah has more.
Theresa Kwatema alleges she was confined for years by her own mother and other relatives who even attempted to poison her. They refused to buy drugs prescribed for her whenever she fell sick. Her crime is that she had been blind, a condition her relatives found her embarrassing due to public ridicule. Theresa's grandmother and only solace saw her through school up to second cycle level. The old lady was, however, too weak to be able to continue providing for her personal and educational needs. After completing senior high school at the Kropon School for the Blind, Theresa was back home in hopelessness. Her schoolmate, who had trained as a teacher, gave her some money to resit some papers she had failed in the West Africa Senior Certificate exams. Theresa finally made a grade and got admission at Wesley College of Education, but how to raise money to pay fees was yet another stumbling block. An appeal saw volunteers contributing 3,000 Ghana cedis to put her back to school. Theresa is among 10 visually impaired students admitted to study social education at Wesley College this academic year. Head of the visually impaired unit at Wesco, Bid the Venerable Bugase, finds it unfair for physically challenged students to pay the same fees as their able-bodied colleagues. He wants the Ghana Blind Association to intensify advocacy on issues affecting its members.
The biggest challenges are the payment of fees. Like they are with their colleagues here, the disability at least, they do not do certain subjects. They don't bring their textbooks in Braille. They don't, it's just the normal this thing that courses that they go through, and they are expected to pay like their sighted colleagues. That is our biggest challenge, because at least they should have been exempted from paying the same amount of fees as their colleagues. So I think the Special Education Department, the Ghana Blind Union should come together and fight that cause. So do you see things that they shouldn't be doing that they are expected to do? Looking at the fees especially. The sighted colleagues, they take exercise books, they take a whole lot of things. When they pay and you give me, as a visually impaired person, you give me an exercise book, how do I benefit from it? You see, so at least we think that these things should be looked at, and then they streamline things, and we're able to work very well.
Mr. Bugasi also recommends education authorities to provide software to facilitate completion of online admission by visually impaired persons.
Yeah, the admissions, when it comes to admissions, for example, because they are exempted from maths and science, when they fill the online, automatically they are not qualified. You see, so Accra online goes to teacher education, and they will now have to sit down and select those who are qualified. But in our situation, it would have been better that they have a software for the visually impaired. Because on the form there is a disability column where they will now have to enter this information, and then at least they'll be admitted. I will now have to sit down and select forms and present to the principal for admission. So this is a very big challenge, because if not for that, that means we wouldn't have had any visually impaired student this year. You see, unfortunately, we had a new principal who is very listening.
Meanwhile, acting head of the eye care unit at the Ghana Health Service, Dr. James Amu-Adi, who was on the AM show today, offered some tips as we observe World Sight Day.
Starting more like our lifestyle. Let me even start from even pregnancy. Okay. Even in pregnancy, when mothers are pregnant, there are certain kind of infections that when they should get those infections, it can lead to blindness and visual impairments. And then during delivery, if you don't deliver maybe in the hospitals, you deliver at home, it can also cause predispose the children to blindness and visual impairment. Whilst we are growing up as children, the way we play around with sharp objects, sticks, and pointed pencils, pens, that can also expose us to blindness and visual impairment. And of course, when we grow up, our lifestyle, sedentary work, the kind of food we eat, lack of exercise, all those things can predispose us to systemic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and all those things will end up giving us eye problems. So yes, our lifestyle, even from pregnancy, all the way through delivery, through childhood, and then of course in adulthood. But there are certain blindness or visual impairment which is age-related that we can't do much about it. But we shouldn't go blind from those conditions. People also believe that once you have a disease, once you are growing up, it's like divine that you should have some bit of visual impairment, and therefore there are a lot of people who have eye problems, but then they still think that they don't need to go to the hospital. People even need just common spectacles, but they have the belief that if they wear the spectacles rather will end up worsening their sight. So even if you give it to their children, they prevent their children from wearing it. Even for they themselves, they don't want to wear it. And of course, then they go on with the visual impairment. Others come from money. The money is not there. I mean, now we are happy that the health insurance is providing some basic drugs for everyone, but then there are other potent drugs that people need, but because they don't have the money to buy those drugs, then of course they will stay at home. Some of the eye diseases are chronic. That means that we cannot cure it. We can only control it. So for how long are you going to buy drugs, maybe very expensive drugs, and continue for the rest of your life?
This is Joy News Today.